The lights were bright on the court with the sound of sneakers squeaking echoing through the gym. It was 1960 in Colony, Oklahoma, and Coach Jim Davis was focused on his Colony girls basketball team's matchup with Elmore City. But as the first half drew to a close, a nagging worry pulled at his attention. His young wife, 21-year-old Pat Davis, was not in her usual seat. At halftime, Jim Davis sent two of his teenage players to check on Pat at their apartment, located on the high school grounds. He simply wanted to know what was taking her so long. What those girls found, however, shattered the peace of the small town forever. Pat Davis was dead, found with fractured skull and multiple stab wounds, a victim of a savage attack. Her watch had stopped at 8:25 p.m. In a chilling detail, the couple's 18-month-old daughter, Carrie, was left completely unharmed, tucked into her crib just feet away from the horrific scene. The crime was brutal. Pat's body showed 2 broken fingers, suggesting a fierce, desperate struggle. Investigators swarmed the area, treating it as the work of an unknown killer. The apartment had been ransacked, though robbery seemed unlikely as the sole motive. One of the murder weapons, a baseball bat, was found not far from the Davis front door. Who was this monster? The community was gripped by fear. Pat was popular and well-liked. As far as anyone knew, her life with Coach Davis, rising star and former pro baseball player, was happy, and the sheriff cleared Jim Davis as a suspect. Everyone was certain a total stranger had committed the heinous act, leading to an intensive, 2-week manhunt that gripped the entire region. The focus was outward, toward an unseen intruder. 2 weeks passed with no arrests. The pressure was immense. As resources were beginning to dry up, several state investigators, Coach Davis, alongside Pat's grieving father, Harvey Engel, hopped in a car and began driving through Ouachita County, discussing every possible suspect. Every lead was cold. The conversation was heavy, focused on who else could have done this. Then, in a sudden surge of emotion, a wide-eyed Jim Davis told the men, "Wait." "Stop the car," he requested. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. "I think we need to have a word of prayer. We need to pray about this." They pulled over, in the quiet of that rural road. As he began his prayer, Jim Davis confessed to murdering his wife, Pat. The coach who sent his players to find his wife, who grieved publicly, was the killer all along. The men, the town, and the state were all stunned. Jim Davis was charged with murder. This was such an unexpected and uncharacteristic behavior. The courts sent Jim to the Western State Hospital in Fort Supply. After a 60-day stay, they concluded that Davis had psychosis and suffered some sort of mental break when he murdered his wife. Davis eventually pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced to life in prison. He was paroled just 15 years later, in 1975. It is unknown what became of Jim Davis after his parole.